"You're awake right now. You're not dead, and you haven't gone to hell," said Rachel Maddow, the former host of CNN, following the 2016 election. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel had similar words following the 2024 election. Quote, "It was a terrible night for women and children, poor people, for the middle class, for democracy and decency." Unquote. After the 2020 election, Donald Trump proclaimed, quote, "You're not going to have a country anymore," unquote. Here, Jimmy Kimmel, Rachel Maddow, and Donald Trump made absurd predictions. They exaggerated anger, shock, and indignation for the cameras. This is called false outrage. Even though those spouting falsehoods don't believe what they're saying, their false outrage influences others around them. Family, teachers, books, and friends shape our personal beliefs. But one group of these influences sits behind shiny desks, and no, I'm not talking about you guys, the judges. This group brazenly declares what is right and what is wrong, who should have power and who deserves insult. This group is a subset of political commentators, and their worldview of false outrage and moral confusion has corrupted the morality of millions. In this speech, we will see the impact of false outrage, how it ends dialogue, destroys morality, and has infected the culture. In the introduction, we saw instances where media figures were outraged, but their outrage was fake. It was a show for the cameras. False outrage. By definition, false outrage isn't real. It's a purposeful exaggeration of anger, shock, and indignation. As writers for The Minimalist, a blog that encourages simple living, put it, quote, "We've all gotten offended without asking ourselves why, and then used our fake outrage to cast judgment on others. It helps us feel better, and pretending to be offended is much easier than attempting to breach the walls of introspection." Unquote. When we pretend to be outraged, we don't have to ask, why do I believe this? Piers Morgan, the very British host of a political show with 4 million followers, uses outrage to avoid hard questions. In 2017, when a guest on his show questioned his stance on gun policy, he responded, quote, "How dare you?" his face tightening for the camera. When his guest answered, "Well, you can keep saying that, Piers, but my point still stands," Piers didn't address his point. Quote, "Again, how dare you?" he repeated. Nothing Piers Morgan said advanced the debate. Instead, he used outrage to shield himself, because outrage is easier than introspection. One of my favorite videos of Charlie Kirk is one where he sat alone at a table at a college campus, with a sign reading, "Prove me wrong." A furious woman walked up to him. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Quote, "When you stop having a human connection with with someone you disagree with, bad stuff happens." Unquote. He said. "That makes me angry," the woman responded, and stormed away. But Charlie was right. Replacing dialogue with outrage is disastrous. Not only does false outrage impair dialogue, it also twists morality. This is the second and greatest sin of false outrage. Its practitioners maintain that saying good words amounts to or even surpasses doing good deeds. Members of the media hope to heighten their status in the eyes of others by taking strong stands where they feel they have the moral high ground. Research by psychologist Joshua Grubbs finds that, quote, participants on false outrage found that, quote, participants self-reported their motivation as status-seeking, unquote. Another late-night host, Stephen Colbert, has done exactly that. Quote, "I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but in 1939 they held a pro-Nazi rally there," unquote. With this remark, Colbert insinuated that Donald Trump is Nazi-adjacent. Having created a straw man out of Trump, an evil Nazi, he spared no words, swearing at Trump live on national television. His statements make sense within a worldview which treats outrage, even exaggerated or symbolic evils, as an act of virtue. Author Glenn Beck describes the human effect of false outrage in his book, Addicted to Outrage. Quote, "It deprives human beings of genuine humanity. replacing it instead with an outwardly facing caricature of a virtuous human being wrapped around a rotting corpse. Unquote. The twisted worldview has morality. False outrage replaces good deeds with outraged words. As we've seen, false outrage disrupts dialogue and warps morality. Even worse, it's spreading across the culture. For example, Benny Johnson, a conservative podcaster with 6 million followers, uses outrage to attract views. At the time of writing all of his last 17 videos have a thumbnail of outraged politicians. Similarly, for an article in Science magazine, Killian McLaughlin and her colleagues found that, quote, social media posts that express outrage are liked and shared more, training users to express more outrage, and ranking algorithms to amplify it, unquote. Unfortunately, false outrage doesn't stay online. It doesn't hide behind screens. Humans copy the behaviors and worldviews of the people they spend their time around. And because talk show hosts and media figures consume a significant portion of many people's days, their worldview seeps into the culture. Unfortunate statistics demonstrate this. According to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, a free speech organization, quote, this year more than 2/3 of students, 68%, said that shouting down a speaker is at least rarely acceptable. The report noted that these numbers have risen significantly for the past few years. I've had a personal experience with false outrage. 2 years ago, my grandparents and I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. When the march ended, I kept my poster as a souvenir. A woman saw me carrying the poster and began screaming at 14-year-old me, telling me I should never participate in a march. Likely her beliefs came from political commentators online. But they caused her to take action in the real world. She believed yelling at 13-year-olds makes you a good person. False outrage seeps into the world, and there it causes even more harm. As we've seen here, the worldview of some political commentators celebrates false outrage. Even those specific media figures don't deserve all the blame, but their worldview does deserve the blame. Their worldview is false. False outrage is not a virtue, and moral grandstanding is not a good deed. The moral confusion of media hosts has eroded the genuine compassion of millions and transformed it into outrage. But I wouldn't have accomplished anything if I told you to be outraged at false outrage. I used to be addicted to outrage. I was angry at every news story. Thankfully, I was convicted after reading Glenn Beck's book, Addicted to Outrage. I realized what I had been doing. Quote, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things, says Colossians 3 verse 2. I made a pledge to stop being outraged at earthly things. Imagine if everyone stopped practicing false outrage. Our dialogue could be constructive. We could do good deeds instead of believing that outrage makes us compassionate. The culture would embrace genuine human connection. So I'll leave you with this. False outrage isn't worth it. Life is too beautiful to waste being angry.